Hello, travelers. Today we are talking Vienna, all things Austria. We absolutely love this destination. Laura Elmore of Global Dreams Vacation and I cannot wait to share more about this destination with you. So come join us for Vacations Live to talk more about beautiful Vienna. Hello, travelers. I am Mandy Horn here with Laura Elmore. Oh, our names are reversed. That's really funny. Anyway, you get to be Mandy today. But hello, travelers. We are so glad to have you here with Vacations Live, where we're bringing you the best in global luxury inspiration. And today we are talking about a very fun destination, Vienna, one that both Laura and I love. We are both travel advisors with Global Dreams Vacations, and Laura is the wonderful owner of Global Dreams Vacations and an expert on Vienna, and was kind enough to join me today to talk more about this wonderful location. So, Laura, I would love for you to just give us a little bit, why Vienna? What do you like? What do you love about Vienna?
Oh, there's so much to love about Vienna, but I think part of what I love is it's so beautiful. The city, it's along the Danube River, and it has gorgeous riverfront areas. There's multiple parks throughout the city. It's very walkable. There's incredible history going back, thousands of years. And there's so much to see and do regardless of your interests. That I enjoy all of those things. The beauty of the city, the main areas. Vienna is divided into 23 districts, and there's about 4 or 5 of them that most people are going to really stick to. The first district is the core of what they call Imperial Vienna, going back hundreds of years to the Hofburg and the beautiful palaces that are just breathtaking. And walking around that area, it is so walkable that you can walk for a long period of time and just be constantly astounded by the beauty that you're seeing. And then along the way, you are encountering so much history: the Belvedere Palace, City Hall, St. Stephen's Cathedral. And then for music lovers, you have not only the Philharmonic and, of course, the Vienna Boys Choir, which is extremely famous, and the State Opera House. There's the homes of Mozart, Strauss, Haydn, Schubert, and Beethoven.
Everyone.
All of them. So, and there's some incredible music walks that take you around basically the same central area of Vienna, and you get to enjoy the flavor of the different eras that they were part of. Then there's fun things like art. There are some incredible museums. The Lippenzahner writing school, the Spanish writing school, has incredible shows there. And when I was there last, I missed the opportunity to go to one of the shows, but got to go by the stables. It's right part of the Hofburg Palace complex, and got to peek in and see the stables, see some of the horses, and it was fantastic. And then, of course, there's Vienna Woods and the parks. A lot of people don't know that Vienna is the largest capital city, I think, in the world, with wineries within the city limits.
Hey, who's going to argue with that?
How
can you go wrong in Europe with a winery within city limits?
and then you have, of course, the incredible coffee shops that date back hundreds of years. So I can go on and on. There's so much to see and do, and there's just never enough time.
Yes, absolutely. I think Vienna is one of those cities. It's always a favorite of our clients whenever we send anyone that way, especially for a river cruise. Vienna is on the Danube, so it is often one of the first places people experience on a river cruise, because if that's as their first river cruise, Vienna is often on a Danube itinerary. So, and it tends to be a highlight. It tends to be a favorite of our clients. So we always love talking about this city and bringing you guys a little bit more. Just even if you're joining us now at this point, if you've just joined us and we're talking about Vienna and some of that sounds really cool that Laura just talked about, go ahead and leave in the comments for us what you would love to see in Vienna, because we always are interested in what people are finding interesting about, the places that we're going. So make sure you're leaving us, or if you're catching the replay, we still want to hear from you. Leave that in the comments for us. But let me see here. You sent some beautiful photos that we want to share with all of our wonderful guests joining us today. And so I'll bring up here. This is a beautiful cafe photo that Laura sent. And what have you experienced of the cafe culture in Vienna?
Well, and I didn't know the history that the Turks were who brought coffee to Vienna hundreds of years ago. And there's Viennese coffee, of course, is an actual thing. And there are coffee houses just throughout. I mean, we think in America, there's a Starbucks on every other corner. This is a whole different experience because people don't just rush in and grab something and rush out. It's you go and you sit and you enjoy, whether you're sitting at al fresco, watching the people walking by, or whether you're sitting in these beautiful cafes that are hundreds of years old. And then they have wonderful tea too. For those who don't drink coffee, there's still some wonderful options. Yeah. And then pastries galore.
Never go on a diet. That's our biggest tip you guys can take away from this video. Never start a diet before you head to Europe.
And the good thing is you end up walking so much that it's a little easier to justify eating, strudel or soccer torch, which is...
I'll bring up a photo. I have one.
Yes.
Yes. And it looks delicious. And now I'm hungry.
Yes. Well, and again, one of those famous historical sites, Hotel Soccer, is in the middle of the Imperial area. And you go in and it's been family owned for generations. Yeah. And you go in and just immediately feel the bygone era of being relaxed and enjoying a dining experience. And then they have a separate little cafe where you can actually order the soccer torte. Which it's a very dense, very rich. It's apricot and chocolate. And they still follow grandma's recipe from hundreds of years ago. And then for those that are more into the bar scene, they have a gorgeous bar that's there as well. So, but it's all in this same walking area that you can go out and experience something and then come in and just relax and take it all in.
Yes, and it's really made to linger. I think that's these towns, especially along the Danube, are really made to linger. In America, we go, 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 and that's just not. And that's one of the charming things about being in Europe on vacation, is really the ability to just sit and savor the moment. Vienna has such a charm, to the way the streets go and flow. You really do feel like you're stepping back to a different era, to when Europe was posh and regal, and you feel like you're a little bit lost in a fairy tale, and Vienna feels that way, very much so. And then go ahead.
I was going to say, and then on the flip side of that, there's also, I did not know until I got there, that ice cream is a major thing in Vienna. The Italians brought ice cream years ago, and ice cream shops are almost as plentiful as cafes. So you can wander through, there's some wonderful pedestrian shopping areas, and, you'll see people wandering along and window shopping at these fabulous stores. And just, again, the pedestrian areas are extensive because they want people to stroll and enjoy and look.
Yeah. I'll bring up a photo here, on my side of some of the beautiful streets in Vienna that really, that architecture is so classic and gorgeous as you're walking along. And then not far from that Hotel Soccer is the St. Stephen's Cathedral. I'll bring a picture up of that as well. Beautiful. You can see it on pretty much any skyline photo of Vienna. It always pokes out there and you'll know exactly what you're looking at. And there's the cafe, and it's not far from Hotel Soccer. You can walk that if you're if you're there. So some beautiful things right near in the city center, not far from where you port for a river cruise. Like it's not a long distance. You always recommend riding the subway to get there.
Well, actually, you can ride the subway, or in most cases on a river cruise, the river cruise line, like the last time I did a river cruise there, they provided transportation that you could just ride the shuttle bus in and either make your way back on your own. There's also a wonderful tram system in Vienna that's very easy to get around, or they had shuttle buses that would pick you up at designated spots, so you could go in and spend hours and then get the last shuttle back and go back to the ship, or, take the tram. So there's a variety of options.
Yeah, and that works really well for our clients that maybe aren't super comfortable using public transportation in other places, especially now we're living in an environment where people are very conscious of, okay, maybe I want a different experience than public transportation. River cruises, we're already ahead of the game on that one, and have transportation that you don't have to plan and you don't have to work. We warn our clients about this all the time, that vacationing, traveling can be labor intensive, like when you're having to think and navigate in not your regular language. And, some couples, like, let's all be honest, where you've had that fight where someone doesn't know where they're going and no one will admit it, and you're losing time.
Hold you, turn left.
And, right. That doesn't happen when you build into the trip something like a river cruise where there's easy transportation. No one has to think, no one has to worry. And, it's just super easy to go explore and really enjoy the time. And that you don't have any logistics taking away from that experience. And so, we highly recommend it. Fights not included. Lots of other things included, but flights not included on your vacation. Let me bring up a photo here of the Ringstrasse, which you took this photo. It's gorgeous. It's a beautiful view. And this the Ringstrasse, for our viewers at home that may not have seen it before, is this beautiful street in Vienna that has so many gorgeous buildings on it. And like in this one photo off to the far right, you can see Parliament. You can look forward to the museums of natural history, the Fine Arts Museum, the Hofburg Palace. Those are all right on one street. You don't even have to navigate very far to find so many beautiful things in Vienna. And what was it like for you to walk on it?
Well, and that's what I'm getting goosebumps, frankly, just even remembering that being there, and just, I kind of, at one point in time, just stood there on the sidewalk and did a 360 and thought, oh my gosh, everywhere I look, there is just such beauty. And so, well, I think you used the word regal, but not stuffy. And that's part of what I really liked about Vienna is it's a very laid back, easygoing. I mean, even one of the experiences that a lot of people want to do is to go to the opera house or to the Philharmonic and have a performance. And at first, I mean, I like classical music to a point, but I thought, I really want to spend an evening listening to classical music. Well, part of what's wonderful is, like, through the river cruise lines, the experience they take you to, it's not just sitting and listening to music for hours. They have lighthearted Mozart and Strauss, and they have folk dancing and ballet. And I mean, I just sat there entranced and never once yawned. And really, and it was a light evening that was just so enjoyable, but to be in these gorgeous settings with these chandeliers and this beautiful setting and think, oh my gosh, people have been doing this for hundreds of years. I mean, let's face it, we all kind of look at Mozart as, but, he was the Justin Bieber of
the Playboy. I'll bring up a photo of some of those chandeliers you referenced that you said that you took actually on one of your trips. Just absolutely gorgeous room, beautiful places to be. But yeah, he was a total Playboy. Like
yes, and and again, it was as I was sitting there listening to the music and looking around, I thought, in his day, he was the pop star.
Yeah,
and and that's really how they represented it. Is it was not at all stuffy and nonsense. It was just relaxed and enjoyable. And we just came away from the hour or so feeling uplifted and enjoying it, and then got to wander around to the cafes again and
Yeah.
wander around and look at the city at night.
Yeah. And I have a beautiful panorama of Vienna at night I'll bring up for everyone to see. And this is something that we often talk about with our clients. There's two Viennas. There's daytime Vienna and nighttime Vienna. And you really should see both. Like, seeing Vienna illuminated at night is a totally different view of the city, absolutely gorgeous. And so you really want time both to see things, brightly lit in the morning, but to make sure you're getting that illumination at night. Because it really is just a gorgeous city lit up. All the different architecture and things really plays well in the different lighting.
Well, and again, the being able to walk along with the lights playing off the cobblestone streets, and to see the difference in the atmosphere, it just, yes. I always tell clients, you have to have an overnight at least in Vienna, or you're just going to miss part of the experience.
Well, there's so much to do. It's really hard to fit into even one day of shore excursions because, I'll bring up a picture here of Schönberg Palace. This is actually a little bit outside the city. And so it can take a full morning. It has to not just, to get there. I'll bring up the gardens. There's extensive gardens here to go see. And so it really takes more than just a few moments, like a few passing moments to get there and see it. And then, you'll want to go see the other things in Vienna too, or do something like the stable experience that you mentioned.
Yes.
I'll bring up the Spanish writers here that, that you saw. And which do I want to do? Do I want to go see the really cool horse experience, that Vienna's famous for, or do I want to, who wants to choose between that and the Schönberg Palace?
Well, and that's why I always encourage people, even if you're doing a river cruise that only stays overnight for one night, maybe you can go in a little early. Budapest is only, a lot of the river cruises start and stop in Budapest. Well, it's 2 hours by train. Yeah. It's extremely easy to get between the cities, and take some extra time. I mean, there's also Vienna Woods, which is just a gorgeous walking area or biking. And then you've got the Prater, that is this, it's kind of their version of Central Park.
Yes.
That it has the Ferris wheel that, people sometimes think, what does the Ferris wheel have to do with, but it's a famous Ferris wheel, and you can ride it just a regular Ferris wheel, or they actually have dinner rides that you can have a 5-course dinner as you're going through this luxurious part of the Ferris wheel.
Oh, that's so cool. And that's what, there's always another thing in Vienna.
Yes.
Right? But do I want to do the luxurious dinner, or do I want to go see Mozart played where Mozart was written? You don't want to make those choices. So like you said, either going by train from another destination. Europe is fairly close in many respects. Different destinations tend to be closer than they are here in the States. But we do have river cruises that, start or stop in Vienna. If you wanted to make that your first stop, you could extend your stay. That's great if you want several days. Or there are several cruise lines that we work with that have 2 full days in Vienna. They do an overnight as part of the itinerary, or they arrive by evening, so you get an evening and then a whole next day in Vienna.
Yes.
And this is one of the big things, sometimes people want to check off all the destinations they can, and Vienna is such a favorite destination. We would skip some of the others to get a second day in Vienna.
And honestly, it's funny because the first time I went, I thought, I want to see Vienna, and, we're going to have an overnight and see a day, and, okay, next. And then halfway through the day, I said, oh my gosh, I want more time. Yes. There's just too much. And then even outside of Vienna, there's the Wachau wine valley. Salzburg is only a couple of hours by train. I mean, you're right on the edge of the Alps. Mm-hmm. There's just so much to see and do that you can't begin to get it all in. Mm-hmm. And there's something for anyone's interest to fit.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things we often do for clients is, in fact, help them plan extensions. So, like, they want the kind of the sampler going down the Danube to see all of the different places. And then they want to get off and spend, they've already gone to the trouble of getting the flight, doing the, the time change, doing all of that, why not tack on a couple extra days to go see some highlights that maybe aren't right on the river, that really then maximize your time, maximize that flight, and we can and help you make that a seamless experience to really make sure you're soaking up the absolute best of Europe.
And there's some wonderful places to stay in Vienna too that are in the midst of the action. It's very easy to get around, and you're going to feel very at ease. Yes, they speak a different language, but pretty much everyone I encountered, English was not an issue.
Yeah.
And they're very open and friendly. They love to have Americans there to enjoy their city and to share it with you.
Yes, yeah, and really appreciating, I think, Vienna has so much history. I think when you come with it with that perspective that it's been there for so long, it was such a major player in Europe. People don't often realize how populous and how big a deal it was because it was so hard hit by World War II. We may not see it today as big a capital as it once was, this huge center for the arts and music and a Jewish society and all of that. I actually found, I'll bring it up, a photo from the Historical Society in Austria. And it's this all, and you can see in the background, Austria looks the same. Like Vienna, those streets look the same. And the people, obviously the fashion's different. It's black and white, but you're like, oh goodness, the art, like Vienna has been this way for long
years.
time. And they've been enjoying this beauty and the feeling of it. And Austrians are so welcoming. And the food is so welcoming and so good, and there's so much wine you should drink. You can't possibly shortcut your time.
Well, and I will mention too, you touched on the Jewish history, and again, Austria was one of the major Jewish capitals in Europe prior to World War II. And at the Hofburg Palace, you will see the famous parapet where Hitler did his speech when they took over Austria. And if you've ever watched anything of that era, you're going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, that's it. Yeah. There's a wonderful Jewish area that you can tour and enjoy and explore and continue to think about. I mean, those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. And that's it. That's something I think it's important for all of us to look at the history and the incredible things that Vienna has survived.
Yeah. Well, and what you can share with your children. We have a lot of clients that they want to see it with their own eyes, to be able to tell their children and grandchildren.
Yes.
I have seen this. It is real, and you can't let anyone ever tell you, that this is not our history and didn't happen, because it's so important that the next generations get that sense of know that we see that these things are here and we remember what's been preserved. And a lot of people find that very enriching. We have a lot of clients that travel just for that purpose. They want to see some of those things.
Well, and speaking of families, sometimes I've take younger children, not necessarily preschoolers, but school age children. And Vienna, again, is such a wonderful city for that because it is so walkable. It's so easy that if you get tired, you can stop and have a drink or have a snack. Again, Vienna woods and the parks. There are so many things that the kids will be entranced by. And I don't even think I gave you the picture. Part of what shocked me as we went through the Imperial area, there's an archaeological excavation there.
Cool.
That it's gone down like multiple layers into the Roman days. And you don't get to see a lot of it, but you can actually see as they have excavated the layers and have gone back hundreds of years. Yeah. It's just amazing to think this has been here so long. And there's so many things to keep children really excited and enjoying and to not get bored with, that I think Vienna is a wonderful place to take children and young people, that they're really going to absorb it and recognize this is not the same as home.
Yes. Yeah, and get that deep sense of history. I think it's hard sometimes for people who have only ever been in the U.S., which is a fairly new country in the scheme of world powers, and when you see a city that's literally been built on top, like layer by layer down the archaeological digs, and you're like, man, these places have been here forever, and people have been doing this forever, and kids can kind of start to wrap their brains around how truly, amazing it is to experience another place and another culture. And we have some excellent land operators that we partner with that specialize in kids, which is really key if you're going to take that kind of trip, because they specifically train their guides to deal with children. And to engage them in things like treasure hunts and like I know lots of art museums, they'll do that with kids. They turn it into kind of a treasure hunt so that the kids get engaged with the art. They see how beautiful it is, but it's not dull and boring for them, and they walk away knowing. I know my daughter's been super obsessed with Mozart. They're learning about it in school, and I happened to tell her, I'm like, oh, do you know I'm talking about Mozart's hometown? And she was just like, oh, Mom, that's so cool. He was so amazing, And, we tend to recommend that kids go right about, in fact, the point my daughter's about 10, when they start hitting some of that world history, musical history in school, is when we really see them engage internationally, like when they can go and have an appreciation for some of those things. They've heard of world wars before. They may not know all the dates yet, but they've heard of it, and they knew it was important, and can talk through some of those things. One of the places, in fact, we sent a lot of families to, I'll bring up a photo of here, are the Christmas markets. These are huge, a very special Christmas experience. I'll bring up one in Vienna. Totally, again, like Vienna changes at nighttime, it completely changes for Christmas. And we see a lot of families who are really looking for something special for the holidays actually do a Christmas River cruise, where they actually do specialize on bringing kids on board for those experiences. To do that. And that's, if you feel like you've been there, done that, maybe you've been to Vienna and you're like, I don't know, like Christmas, you need to go on a Christmas cruise and see it in a totally different light, experience it in a totally different light, and maybe take those grandkiddos with you, to get that fresh gingerbread on the market.
It's on my list.
Yes. Why aren't you doing Yes. Absolutely beautiful. Well, Laura, thank you so much for coming today. We do want to invite you, if you're watching the replay, or if you're joining us now, we have a very special resource for you. You'll find it in the links, on the description. But Laura has done a beautiful, is a river cruise right for you, and things you should consider about river cruising. And we have a link to that there. You can go and download your complimentary copy that she has written, and it will kind of clue you in a little bit more to what river cruising is like and why we see so many clients love it and get hooked. And it become their favorite way to experience Europe. So make sure you go and download that and drop us a comment on what you loved about Vienna, because we'd love to talk more about it. But until next time, thank you, Laura, so much for being here. And we will see you on our next episode. Until then, travel smart.
All right. Thanks.